You're glowing, you color and fracture the light. You can't help but shine. And I know that you carry the world on your back. But look at you tonight. The lights, your face, your eyes explode.
So, welcome you back in my Instagram page where I used to provide the short tutorials in my Insta page and the long tutorials in my YouTube page. So, let's start demand analysis with Dr. Nidhi. Okay, so what is the meaning of law of demand? The law of demand simply we can say is that if the price of some particular product will increase, demand will decrease. Simply, there is an inverse relationship between the price and the demand. If the price will increase, demand will decrease. Vice versa. In the same way, in an abbreviations, we can see is that the demand means the desire to have something, the ability to pay something, and the willingness to have something. For example, for satisfying the need of a demand, a particular person should satisfy these three variables. First is desire to have, second is ability to pay, and the third is willingness to have something. Simply, we can say is that the demand is a function of a P. If the price will increase, demand will decrease. If the price will decrease, demand will increase. Simple. There is a negative relationship. If in your examinations you don't need to write the lambi chaudi batein, you have to write in such a abbreviation or in such a logical way so that you can increase your sense of humor, you can increase your analytical power, and you can improve your communication skills as well as your writing this skills. By keeping this thought in my mind, I have used to prepare the whole notes by my own hand by scrolling 10-11 important books and used to provide the ready-made materials for all those students who are preparing for the UG grade, PG grade, CUET, NET, RPSC, as well as the students who are from the 11th and 12th standard facing the problem for fighting for the economics. Okay, so let's have the advantage as much as you can. Okay, so what is a demand table? Demand table simply we can say is that when the relationship between the price and demand is shown in a tabular form, it is known as the demand table. So you can easily say the price is decreasing 5, 4, 3, demand is increasing 1, 2, 3. So relationship is in positive, not in positive. It is in inverse. As the price increases, demand decreases. So you have to explain in such a way. That is the good presentation skills which I want from the students, and I'm facing that the students are having the lacking of this quality. So that's why their concepts is not increasing, they are not getting the good marks, as well as this practical exposure they are not implementing in their business life cycles. So if you want to do any business, if you want to do any startups, all micro macroeconomicals funda will be implemented. So if you want to be successful, just be ready to study with this notes. Okay, so let's we start. So what is the meaning of demand graph? Demand graph simply we can say is that when the relationship between the price and demand will be shown in a graphical manner, it will known as a demand graph. You can see is that in an y-axis we have present the price, in x-axis we have provided the quantity demand. Price increasing, demand decreasing. Relationship is an inverse. That is that. Now, what is the meaning of Giffen goods paradox? Giffen goods paradox simply we can say is that the exceptions are always available of some one point. If the law of demand says price increases, demand decreases, inverse relationship. But the Giffen goods paradox, which is being given by the Robert Giffen, he says that if the price decreasing, demand is also decreasing. Now let me know how it can be possible. Yes, obviously it can be possible for the inferior goods. Here we are seeing the Giffen goods paradox diagram where the demand curve is an upward sloping, wherein in law of demand the demand curve is an downward sloping. Now upward sloping, it says that if the price of some inferior product, I'm going to take the price of the dalda ghee is decreasing from 20 to 10, but the quantity demand is increasing from 1 to 2. So simply we can say is that as the price of dalda ghee, which is an inferior goods, is decreasing, the demand is also decreasing from 2 to 1. Now the question is that why it happens? It happens because indirectly the customer income is increasing. That's why he switch over its consumption level from inferior goods to the superior goods. That's why these things has happened. So if you want to take the help of online classes as well as the offline classes in a stream of economics, just you can contact to me. Okay, so now I would like to talk about the Veblen goods. Now the exceptions of the law of demand. What is the exceptions of the law of demand? First is that the Giffen's goods paradox. Law of demand says price decrease, demand increase. But the exceptions of the law of demand says that the price decrease if the price decreasing, demand is also decreasing because of the status symbol, because indirectly their income is increasing. That's why if the price of inferior goods is decreasing, they are being directed and shifted to the superior goods. So that's why for making their status, if the price of product decrease, their demand will also decrease rather than to increase. Now we will be study about the factors affecting the demand. Factors affecting the demand we can see is that the price of related goods. For example, there is a two commodity like tea and coffee. If the price of tea will be increased, the customer will switch over its consumption from tea to coffee. And if the price of coffee will increase, the customer will switch over its consumption from coffee to tea. So in such a way, the price of relative goods affects the demand. Second is that future prices. For example, if in the future the price of gold will increase, the demand of gold will increase in a present time. And if the demand of gold will be decreased in a future time, the customer's demand for buying the gold will be postponed and will be directly shifted to the future needs. Next, we will be studies about the elasticities of demand. So now we will be study about the elasticity of demand. That what is the actually meaning of the elasticity of demand? The elasticity of demand simply we can say is that the percentage change in quantity demand divided by the percentage change in the price. And as far as the numerical formula is concerned, we can say is that the del Q divided by del P into P by Q means del Q here stands for the change in quantity demand, Q stands for the initial quantity, del P stands for the change in price and P stands for the initial price. Means किसी प्रोडक्ट की प्राइस में कितना परसेंटेज चेंज होने से उसकी क्वांटिटी डिमांड में कितना परसेंटेज चेंज होता है, दैट इज नोन एज द elasticity of demand. Now the elasticity of demand is bifurcated in a three major parts. The first is the price elasticity of demand. The second is the cross elasticity of demand. And the third is the income elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand simply says price में change होने से quantity demand में कितना percentage change होता है. Income elasticity of demand simply we can say is that कि if the customer की income में change होने से उसकी demand में कितना changes होता है. और cross elasticity of demand simply we can say is that कि किसी product की, जैसे for example there is two commodities. First is A commodity and second is the B commodity. Or simply we can take the example of the tea and the coffee. तो tea की prices में change होने से कॉफ़ी की डिमांड में कितना चेंजेस होगा और कॉफ़ी की प्राइस में चेंज होने से टी की डिमांड में कितना चेंज होगा. जब हम लोग इनका म्यूचुअली प्राइस एंड डिमांड का स्टडी करते हैं देन दिस टर्म इज़ नोन एज द क्रॉस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. So now we would like to study about the types of the price elasticity of demand. There is a different types of the price elasticity of demand. The first is the perfect elasticity. The second is the perfect inelasticity. The third is the relative elasticity. The fourth is the relative inelasticity. And the fifth is the unitary elasticity. First, we will be study about the perfect elasticity of the demand. The perfect elasticity of demand simply states कि किसी प्रोडक्ट की प्राइस में यदि थोड़ा सा भी चेंजेस होता है तो उसकी क्वांटिटी डिमांड में काफ़ी इफेक्ट पड़ता है. सो दैट्स वाई द टर्म इज़ नोन एज द perfectly elasticity of demand. Here, the desirable price for the consumer is only the OP, and if the price will be little bit changes, then the customer will stop its consumption level. So that's why the demand curve is infinity. So the customer is very sensitive towards the price of some particular product. So this case mostly implement in a case of the superior goods, because if the price of superior goods will be increased, the demand obviously will be decrease. So the customer is very sensitive. Second, we can say is that the price perfectly inelasticity of demand. The perfectly inelasticity of demand states that the customer is extremely, we can say is that he is not sensitive towards the price of the demand, because he want to buy this product by hook or by crook. Either the price increases or decreases. So that's why the demand curve is in horizontal, not in horizontal axis, but the demand curve is in vertical axis, and that's why the elasticity is equal to 0. So here the customer's demand increases from P1 to P2. However, the demand is QD, and if the price decreases from P2 to P1, however, the demand is constant. Means the customer want to buy this product by hook or by crook. Either the price increases or decreases. This one case implements only in a case of the those goods which are very necessary, like medicines, we can say is that. Okay. Now the third is that the relative elasticity of demand. The relative elasticity of demand states that here the percentage change in quantity demand is much more than the change in the price. So the price is changing 20%, but the quantity demand is changing 80%. So we can say is that the change in quantity demand is much more as compared to the change in the price. So that's why the del Q is greater than the del P. So that's why the elasticity is greater than 1. Next, we can study about the relative inelasticity of demand. Relatively inelasticity of demand, we can say is that the change in price is more and change in quantity demand is less. So the variation of price is much more changes, but the demand correspondingly changing little bit. So that's why the del P is greater than the del Q. Next, we can study about the unitary elasticity of demand. Unitary elasticity of demand states that the percentage change in quantity demand is just equal to percentage change in the price. If the price is changing 20%, correspondingly demand is also changing 20%. So that's why the variation is same, and this is known as the unitary elasticity of demand. So if you want to learn more with more concepts, you can contact me. Online classes are available, offline classes are available, or the latest PDFs of all micro macro concepts is also available. So just you can contact to me. Thank you.